A few minutes ago, you mentioned the word evolved, and obviously you've had a long relationship there, and that has sort of evolved into a relationship with, of all things, NXT. And you are one of the pioneers as far as going into NXT and still being on the independent circuit at the same time. What's your perspective as far as sort of not only being a groundbreaker, but trying to navigate this sort of political landscape without having anybody before you having done it?
It's a very exciting time for all of us. I'm one of those types of people where I'll do something people see as special or people see as groundbreaking, and I'm in the middle of it, so I don't really see it as that. I see it as, this is just what I do. I know it's very cool, I know it's very crazy, and I know it's very different, but I don't see it as this huge monumental thing yet. I'm very lucky. The fact that I get to come here to Beyond Wrestling today after wrestling last night in Detroit in an NXT live event, wrestling the night before in NXT in Pittsburgh, I think that's awesome. And I think that's awesome not only for me, but it's awesome for fans. It's awesome for the wrestling business that is even possible in this day and age. In the year 2016, I can wrestle for NXT and I can still do independent wrestling, and that's awesome. And it does nothing but help independent wrestling, I think. So I think it's a win-win for everybody.
It's crazy to think about. And one other thing that's sort of crazy and has come about is you're teaming with Tommaso Ciampa, which is a little different. You guys, I don't know how you felt going into it when you first started with him and how it's sort of come to be now, but are you feeling more comfortable with him now as a partner?
Yeah, I think we were kind of thrown together. I consider us kind of perfect strangers because we're both kind of different people. We're both very different wrestlers. He's more in your face, and I'm more kind of all over the place. But I think we're coming together more. We've always been friends. Anymore, we travel a lot more together now. We're with together a lot more now. But it was funny. We both agreed. Candace actually asked me, so if you weren't in wrestling anymore, would you and Tommaso still talk? And I was like, no way. No, not a chance. And then we saw Tommaso later that night, and Candace was like, Johnny said you wouldn't talk if you weren't in wrestling anymore. And Tommaso was like, yeah, he's absolutely right. We wouldn't be friends at all. So that's the kind of personalities we have. But yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. He's a phenomenal wrestler. He's one of the best. So I'm lucky to have him as my partner, though.
I know you're talking to Sports Illustrated, and that's a big deal, but I'm going to ask you a question I think I overheard them asking you. Every time I turn on Instagram, whether it's Finn Balor, Becky Lynch, or whoever it is down there, they have a Zack Sabre Jr. shirt on. So how does it feel to sort of see that attention from, not only your peers, but guys who are now big superstars?
Well, both Finn and Becky are very kind because we've been friends for almost a decade and a half, so they may be kinder to me than they should, but it's still warming that they show their love and support for me. Yeah, it means a lot.
So are you going to join the Balor Club then? Is your Balor Club shirt ready to go?
Ready. Well, yeah, I've got one in my suitcase waiting. I'm really happy doing what I'm doing now, and for me, it's I'm testing myself, so I kind of feel what I'm doing now, just bouncing around between Europe and America. For a plethora of companies and a completely a wide variety of wrestlers with the only I'm putting pressure on myself, and I really I think I work best under that, so I'm real happy right now.
And speaking of pressure, AJ Styles debuted at the Royal Rumble, and you beat him for the British Heavyweight Championship. So did you get a chance to talk to him before or afterwards, and how do you feel not only to sort of take that crown back from Mother England, but also how do you compare yourself to someone like him? Because he has that high flying mentality. You say you don't fly out of the ring, obviously, but he is someone who has over the years really made himself into an all around performer.
I think he's incredibly underrated. He's a perfect all rounder, but he's such a great technical and mat wrestler too. So I think just maybe he doesn't always get the chance to kind of showcase that. For me, being in the ring with AJ, who really, if he isn't the best wrestler in the world, he's top 3, is still an indication of how much further I need to go, because he's just on such a different level to someone like myself, I think, as a performer. So I'm just glad that we got to do it. That was the only time we ever wrestled. So I'm incredibly thankful that I got to do it. I squeezed it in just before he went up to WWE. But yeah, a great indication of I think what I need to progress to become someone like that. You know, someone who can travel all over, conduct himself in that way, and just like I've seen AJ since he left TNA on the independent scene in Japan, and just destroys it every time. Like, it doesn't matter. You know, the guy's schedule was insane. There was never an excuse. There was never he never had a bad match. So yeah, when you see someone like that on that level, who's been involved in wrestling for the period he is, still pushing himself, so that's really inspiring to me.
Here tonight at Beyond Wrestling, sort of a different atmosphere with the fans being right up against you. Is that something you've experienced yet? And if you haven't, what are your feelings going into it?
I wrestled for Beyond a couple times before, so I'm used to the crowd, and I love it. I don't think there's anything better than having a fan ringside while you're going for a rope break, and they're like yelling tap, And I think there's no better way to really, get into the head of a fan, because you're right there. You can really connect and get a reaction from the crowd rather than if there's like an 8-foot gap with a barricade. It's hard for the crowd to really get involved,
Do you like getting the fans angry? Do you like it?
I like getting a reaction, period, My goal is I get booed because of my background, but my goal is by the end of the match that they're happy they saw what I did and they're impressed. So that's always my goal when I'm out there,
Amongst your, constituents, who are your favorites to watch as a performer?
At a higher level or like this level? At the higher level, I was a big fan of Rob Van Dam, the Randy Ortons. I like their style, Brock Lesnar. But, on the, indie stuff, like I've been watching a lot of, Evolve and Beyond and stuff. And I like the more strong style kind of stuff, like Chris Hero. He really gets in there and makes some contact. And Tommaso and guys like that on the indies. Like, I really like to see, like when I watch pro wrestling, I didn't watch it for like the fancy character. I watch it for that realism, I know it's a work. I know they know who's winning and stuff. But at the same time, I like to watch a match where afterwards I'm like, was that real? And that's what I go for when I wrestle. That's what I want to portray when I'm out there,